Now, there's a build-up going on now, a theme starting to emerge now, and we'll see where it goes, with American ships, warships, being moved into shooting distance of Syria. And the Russians are moving ships in there as well, in response, because there is another build-up going on. Whether they think they can get away with it again, they're so bloody stupid and arrogant, basically aspects of the same thing in many ways, that they might just think they can. And that is they are apparently, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, they are preparing for another, what's called a false flag chemical attack, to be blamed on Assad in Syria, which they can then use to justify all-out attack on Syria. And the build-up starts when the usual suspects, Trump and the American administration and the British government and the French government, through this sleazy man, Macron, the Rothschild frontman, used to work for him, start warning that if chemical weapons are used by Assad, there will be consequences. Well, we've reached the point now in Syria, to the great distress of all these people, where thanks to Russian air support and I'm sure Iranian support here and there as well, within Syria, the Syrian army has basically cleared most of Syria, leaving one enclave where all the Western-backed, armed and trained, grotesquely extreme terrorists have now been cornered. And of course, the idea all along, without the Russian intervention, it would have long happened already, was to get rid of Assad. And that's why America launched the whole thing. It's all talked about it at length. So you start to get the warning signs when, at the same time, Russia says they're planning another false flag chemical attack to blame on Assad, and at the same time you get the usual suspects warning Assad that if he does a chemical attack, then there'll be consequences. And of course you'd expect this man, this psychopath John Bolton, the Trump National Security Advisor, to be on the front line of the rhetoric, not the front line of anything to do with action. He'll be under a bed in Washington when the fighting goes on and the action goes on, but he wants to be at the front line where the microphones are. Bolton again warns Assad, we will respond if chemical weapons used in Idlib offensive. Idlib is this area now of Syria where all these terrorists have been cornered. We will respond. No, you won't respond. Like I say, you'll if a car backfired, Bolton, you'd be under a bed in Washington calling for your mum. These people who never see action, bravado. I call it little dick syndrome. I do. I think it's something to do with it. Anyway, this article says, here we go again. Did Bolton just give jihadists facing imminent final defeat under Assad and Russian bombs an open-door invitation to initiate a chemical provocation? CNN and others warned this week that Syrian and Russian forces are closing in on the last rebel stronghold in Syria. It's not a rebel stronghold, it's terrorists who've done unbelievable, grotesque atrocities against so many people. In the country's northwest pocket of Idlib province, U.S. National Security Advisor Bolton put Syrian President Bashar Assad on notice, saying the United States will respond very strongly if pro-government forces use chemical weapons in their campaign to take or retake Idlib. Bolton spoke at a press conference while in Jerusalem, he went to get his orders, where he met with Israeli officials who told him what to think. He said, We now see plans for the Syrian regime to resume offensive military activities in Idlib province. We are obviously concerned about the possibility that Assad may use chemical weapons again. No, you're not. You're more concerned that you will use them via your proxies. And he warned, just so there's no confusion here, if the Syrian regime uses chemical weapons, we will respond to all that rubbish that he comes out with. And you know, I look at the Alex Joneses and that part of the alternative media that has supported Trump and to a very large extent helped to get him in. And well, two questions really: is someone draining the swamp and not wanting any more to have America intervening in other countries, which is what he claimed during the election campaign? Is someone like that, who genuinely means it, going to appoint John Bolton, the psychopath, as his national security advisor? Of course not. And the other thing is, now that this blatant censorship, not least against people like Alex Jones, is going on, where is Trump for you guys? Where is he? Where's the executive order? It may come, I do hope so, but where is it up to this point? Saying you cannot do this, or at least making public pronouncements against it with a view to challenging what's going on. Trump's a puppet, and he's controlled by people like Bolton and those that control Bolton. That's why it's business as usual, not draining the swamp. And according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, this White Helmets organization that claims to be a humanitarian rescue operation, which is just a America-Europe-funded front for the terrorists. White Helmets accompany large delivery of poisonous chemicals to militants in Syria, says Russian MOD. A large supply of chemicals has been delivered to the militants in Syria's Idlib with the assistance of the White Helmets aid group in order to stage a provocation and blame the Syrian government, Russia's defense ministry said. The Russian military has received information from several sources in Idlib province that a large supply of poisonous agents has been brought to the city of Sarakib on 2 trucks from a nearby village. Major General Alesky Tzgandokov, head of the Russian Center for Reconciliation of the opposition sides in Syria, said in a statement. The chemicals were delivered to an arms depot used by the militant group Ahrar al-Sham, accompanied by the 8 members of the White Helmets organization, he said, adding that the cargo was met by 2 high-ranked Ahrar al-Sham commanders. Later, he said, a part of the load was put in unmarked plastic barrels and transported to another militant base in southern Idlib in order to stage the use of chemical weapons, and subsequently blamed the government forces of employing poisonous substances against civilians, which they have tried again and again and again. It's been followed with missiles fired at Syria by America at enormous cost while Americans sleep in the streets, but ultimately it's had no effect, not least because of the public becoming ever more streetwise to the way these techniques of what I call problem, reaction, solution operate. And they're also, of course, building up the pressure with conflict ever more likely with Iran. And Iran is talking about doesn't want foreign ships in the Persian Gulf. And here you have, of course, Trump's policy maker, Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. No place for the weak. Netanyahu threatens Iran and Syria at nuclear reactor ceremony. Israel will oppose Iranian presence in Syria with the same zeal it worked to destroy the nuclear deal and hurt whoever tries to hurt us, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said as he dedicated a nuclear reactor facility. Would that be part of your nuclear weapons program you won't even talk about? Probably. The Middle East is no place for the weak. The weak crumble, are slaughtered, and are erased from history, while the strong, for the good or for ill, survive. And you see, I mean, maybe it's genetic. I see little dick syndrome all over the place with these people. No, big man. Do you fancy visiting the front line? Oh, no. Got a bed in Tel Aviv I must get under. I don't know. But again, like I say, these people are allowed to run the world because we let them do it.